Can Godzilla clear Monster Hunter? Monster Hunter is a series where, of course, the wildlife is primarily composed of large and powerful monsters, some being even bigger than Godzilla himself, and some directly inspired, like the very famous Devil Joe. What would have happened if we were to place the king of the monsters from the Monsterverse into a world where dragons are king? And unlike a lot of other fantasy sort of series, the monsters here are completely natural, with a few exceptions. So Godzilla may actually feel right at home. So let's get into how powerful Monsterverse Godzilla is now, and how powerful his competition will be. Let's begin. I haven't made a full in-depth video on Monsterverse Godzilla for quite some time, so I'll start with him first. Due to new statements, we know that for certain, Shimo and King Ghidorah are both monsters capable of destroying the entire planet. This has been confirmed by Adam Wingard himself.
Shimo is sort of this weapon of mass destruction. She's so powerful, she can basically destroy the planet.
As well as statements in the special features of New Empire's release. On top of this, we have a previous statement regarding King Ghidorah being a consumer and destroyer of multiple planets. The Monarch show confirms that the energy coming from the Hollow Earth is powerful gamma rays. With this in mind, we can determine that the energy output of the Hollow Earth, based on its individual portals, would be at bare minimum planet level, if not all the way up to dwarf star level. This is very interesting considering that we know that Godzilla was compared to the Hollow Earth in GVK when he was weakened, and that with that power source they would create something that could rival Godzilla. While many said that this was just the energy signature and not its actual total power output, New Empire buries this completely. He absorbs an energy source from Tiamat that is stated to be an even greater energy stockpile, meaning Godzilla absorbs something as powerful, if not more, than the entire Hollow Earth, and it only boosted his power by 2 times, meaning base form Godzilla very likely does scale to the Hollow Earth, and backs up further high-end calculations from the Monsterverse. Ghidorah was stated able to wipe out the surface of the planet, and should he have done it with the same sort of energy signature that Earth Kaiju have, this would also be a large planet to dwarf star level feat. Shimo, also in the past, previously covered Greenland in ice in a matter of mere minutes. Due to her absolute zero freezing, this would get Shimo to a minimum of small planet level per second, with the feat being large planet level in general. It is confirmed that Shimo used her freezing powers to their max to halt King Ghidorah's planet-destroying rampage, with her covering most of Antarctica in the last ice age. Godzilla in the past and currently is able to battle Shimo and King Ghidorah, both in his base form and with his amps, so he should just scale to them. It's also been stated previously that Godzilla's atomic breath is nature's most devastating weapon, and was able to match Shimo's beam, meaning he would bare minimum scale to at least small planet level, if not higher. With the gamma rays in mind, one can interpret that this statement would include a gamma ray burst of at least similar size, which would also get Legendary's atomic breath to at least large planet level. I think we can skip past basic monsters like Aptonoth that don't really have much in terms of combat feats, so we're going to shoot right up to the apex predators. Things like Anjanath, Rathalos, and Tigrex. How powerful are these guys? Well, Rathalos, the flagship of the entire game series, who's even appeared in Smash Brothers of all things, has calculations that consistently put it at about city block level, if not higher. This makes sense, since it's still a pretty early fight in the game. Clearly, these monsters are not going to be able to compete. With their city block stats, they probably belong more on Skull Island, or maybe in the Hollow Earth. So we have to move on to the Elder Dragons already. Now, Elder Dragons are pretty strong indeed. For a few notable examples of Elder Dragon power, we could look at a pretty common Elder Dragon, Kushala Daima, with pretty consistent showings and statements that it can control storms and disperse large amounts of clouds. Now, contrary to popular belief, clouds are actually very heavy, contain a lot of water, and are very large. Because of this, dispersing an entire storm actually takes a lot of energy. You could even see this in nuclear bomb footage, where enormous explosions fail to really disperse a number of clouds. So the fact Kushala can actually do this on large-scale storms would make his power pretty high. Based on various showings, we see that Kushala has at least island to even large country level power from one of his intro scenes. This is a cutscene, it's just something he can actually do. And Kushala clearly can't just one-shot everything on his level with these powers, so they should be comparable physically to this dispersal feat. Geismagorm, a large Elder Dragon creature in Monster Hunter Rise, created a huge crater in the ground during one of its fights with Malzeno. If it only crushed the ground during the fight, this feat would be not all that impressive, only about as strong as a large nuclear warhead. But if it used the Dragon Element Beam to vaporize all of this rock, this would actually be much more impressive. Another country level showing of power. This should be consistent because even one of the weakest Elder Dragons, Kirin, is able to create such atmospheric electric charges that it generates island levels of power. And yet these same electric horses blowing up on top of a Rajang barely even phase it. The same Rajang who is overpowered and contests with many Elder Dragons, such as Kushala and Deviljho. It also fits with the official statements that Elder Dragons can actually just wipe out entire landscapes. But of course, Elder Dragons are not limited to just this. There are some Elders that are much, much more powerful. Moving higher into the food chain, there are creatures such as Nergigante, a creature strong enough that it is one of the few things that is possibly stated to be able to predate large boss monsters such as Zorah Magdaros. Zorah Magdaros, if it came into contact with the New World's energy stream, would have annihilated the entire continent. This calculates to a consistent yield of multi-continental, all the way up to small planet level. One may say this is a bit absurd, but consider that it does this merely through the act of dying, which Nergigante was going to be able to feed off of. Furthermore, this has already happened in the past, and on top of that, multiple Dalamadur form the Rotten Vale ecosystem. Dalamadur having many statements that produce country to multi-continental levels of power, and some would be even stronger, would actually get it all the way up to small planet level as well. Which is interesting, because normal Dalamadur are much smaller than the ones from the Rotten Vale, as confirmed in the World Art Book. These much stronger Dalamadur were consumed by Xeno'jiiva, and the world boss is able to create tectonic movements that calculate at the very least into small planet level, all the way up to possibly large planet level. Interesting, because the World Art Book notes that while its rocks were damaged, these were unlikely to be any form of defense against hunter or predator, and Nergigante is able to kill it. This may mean that higher level elders are already at the planet level of power. Notable, but we're not done yet. Above even these mighty beasts are the so-called black dragons. Monsters so powerful, it's just outright stated they could destroy the entire planet, such as the infamous Fatalis. Since we've covered that these monsters that are multi-continental are baby food for Xeno'jiiva, let's explore why exactly this is even more absurd. Xeno'jiiva is the baby form of Siphi-jiiva, which it becomes after absorbing a lot more bioenergy and becoming massively more powerful. Noteworthy, it's mentioned that Siphi is only a rival to Black Fatalis, not even superior. And even so, if you take statements literally, it's very much implied that Fatalis would still be stronger. This would also scale back to Alatreon, stated to be the strongest elder ever encountered up to that point. Siphi-jiiva is stated able to one-shot any previous creature. So yeah, all those planet-level creatures die in one hit. Considering Fatalis is also stated numerous times able to just destroy the entire planet, I think this makes at least sense, and you can get it even higher with lore implications and of course these one-shot increases. Specifically coming from one impressive showing by the White Fatalis, one of the strongest monsters in at least the mainline canon of the Monster Hunter series. Fatalis was able to move the moon at relativistic speeds during his For You intro. This generates an insane amount of kinetic energy, more than enough to destroy small stars, and he could sustain the solar eclipse for the entirety of his battle, even while fighting and weakening against the hunters. He also then has an armor state that increases his durability by over 10 times over. With the highest ends possible, one could even say that Dalamadur can even rip out chunks of stars, and that stars are something that Elder Dragons are capable of forming and creating, at least according to the myths, which the art book states are basically accurate. If so, this means that even a single scale from a Fatalis would be more powerful than any of these planet level at least monsters. And if the statement that dragons created the moon and sun is true, this would mean black dragons are at least large star to solar system level. But along with great power comes great speed. Even early elder dragons such as Kirin are able to move as and control lightning, which the hunters can dodge. This generates at least massively hypersonic levels of speed. Higher up the food chain, Kushala Daora can use objective light in its attacks. Dalamadur is able to pull meteors from a distant star, which is at least massively faster than the speed of light. The hunters at this rank can actually react to and dodge these meteors, and yet can still be blitzed by elders like Valstrax and of course black dragons. So the fastest monster, verbatim, and the black dragons should definitely scale to this. Others such as Nergigante and Rajang are probably more questionable, but you could argue it given how they can blitz hunters that can probably fight Dalamadur. Monsterverse Godzilla is very powerful, but is he powerful enough to control this entire monster world? I would say in a consistent sense, no, actually. If we go with the high ends, he would probably be able to compete in raw strength, but he would most likely be blitzed. If even the world boss Shara Ishvalda can be up to a large planet level, which is approaching Godzilla's level of strength, which can be defeated by Nergigante, who's below even a single scale of a black dragon, that's so much more powerful than any increase you can give Monsterverse Godzilla. It's kind of absurd. The fact that black dragons are just in such a high degree of power would make Godzilla ruling the planet near impossible. Especially given the fact that I haven't even covered abilities yet, and Monster Hunter abilities are quite ridiculous, as most games tend to be. Though I do think most Elder Dragons would likely submit to or be defeated by the King of the Monsters. But what about Monsterverse Godzilla's pretty impressive array of powers? Could that help him against the Black Dragons? Well, he does boast quantum scale radiation, which is pretty good. Some ability to negate regeneration, again, pretty good. Lots of sensory abilities, as well as some space-time abilities. He's a lot more limited than Monster Hunter creatures. For one, a lot of monsters can straight up attack your soul, and that includes lesser creatures that honestly would be eradicated by Godzilla, so that's why I didn't bring it up before. But the Black Dragons are not excluded from that list. They can straight up steal your life force. They can also negate regeneration, and if anything, better. They have better regeneration that they can do mid-combat. They straight up have power nullification. Their abilities can negate you using your abilities, which Legendary can't do that. Fatalis, of all creatures, can, like, possess you, control your mind, drive you insane. And it could do a lot of that when it's already dead. They can summon meteors from outer space, just like that. They can also cut space. Dragon Element does a lot too. It actually attacks your brain function. The smarter you are, the more it affects you. On top of a stupid speed edge and comparable, maybe stronger stats. Like, what is he supposed to do? So sadly, he loses to the Monster Hunter God tiers. But against creatures that he's commonly put up against, like Zora Magdaros and Dalamadur, other giants, Godzilla should be able to defeat them pretty easily. Not only is he stronger, but He's got better ranged abilities. And while they can probably still have the soul abilities, chances are that they're going to use more brute force. Dalamadur's best tricks are its own giant beam attack and firing meteors. But honestly, that's not too impressive here. It can cause paralysis with its tongue, but that would have to get through Godzilla's defenses to do that. And as for Zora Magdaros, it's bigger than Godzilla, but a good bit slower. Also, both of them will blow up if Godzilla kills them, so that'll be an unwelcome surprise. I can't wait to get comments from both fandoms who are trying to screech about power scaling being bad, even though the series literally sticks it in. Like it's literally the plot of World, and we're not gonna act like the Monsterverse hasn't been trying to power scale itself higher. So, he gets pretty far, but he doesn't clear. Thank you all for watching. See you next time.